welcome back to the Garden of Epiphany, a women's health and wellness oasis. I'm your host, Raven Epiphany, and I'm so glad you decided to join us for another video. So we are in part 3 of our natural remedies series, and we're going to be talking about natural remedies for inflammation today. So if you haven't joined us before, go back and check our videos on listening to your body and last week's video on how you can improve the quality of your sleep. Without further ado, let's jump in. So what is inflammation? Inflammation is one way our bodies respond to injuries, infections, cuts, etc. Acute inflammation is a one-time thing. So it's like literally when something happens to your body, like an injury or a cut or an infection, your body will become inflamed, swollen, redness, etc. for that short amount of time. That's a normal, healthy response to, your body trying to combat whatever just happened to you and protect, your cells, etc. from the actual incident and recover from the incident. Chronic inflammation, however, is not a healthy thing. And this is an ongoing inflammation, swelling, etc. in your tissues, in your body. And this is not necessarily related to a specific incident, or it could be something that should have been healed a long time ago and now you're still experiencing inflammation from it. So side effects, acute inflammation, you will notice swelling, redness, pain. And again, when you are dealing with acute inflammation due to a cut, an injury, an infection, these are normal, healthy symptoms of your body's, immune response. It's trying to recover from whatever happened. However, with chronic inflammation, you may not always notice such blatant side effects. They may come in joint and body pain, fatigue, depression and anxiety, and digestive issues like diarrhea and constipation. So these are things where, because of the side effect, you may be able to tie it to other things, but inflammation may actually be the thing that is, causing or contributing to these factors. So causes of acute inflammation, as I said, are when you have a cut, an injury, or an infection. These are normal, these are healthy. Your body should bounce back once you are healed from those things. However, chronic inflammation is associated with poor diet, dehydration, stress, lack of physical activity, so not getting your exercise, poor sleep, which we talked about last week, a very important factor of your health overall, smoking, alcohol intake, specifically, over intake or regular intake, and then obesity are all linked to inflammation, chronic inflammation specifically, which are not great for your body. And so even though inflammation is your body's healthy response, when you are dealing with chronic inflammation, it puts your body in that constant state of the response to something that's not necessarily happening, if that makes sense. So like if you were to get cut, your body responds quickly. It's rushing things to the site, it may produce redness, swelling, etc. because it is trying to heal itself. But with chronic inflammation, your body is sending all of that energy to different parts of your body, but there's not necessarily a cause, and there's not necessarily going to be an automatic healing because there's not a cut, an infection, or an injury that is, inflicting these things. And so the dangers of inflammation, inflammation is associated with a number of illnesses and diseases. And I'm not going to list them out here because I don't really want to speak those over you if you are dealing with inflammation. Just know that it is associated with some heavier, illnesses and diseases. And not necessarily does inflammation cause these things, but a lot of times inflammation can be a sign that happens before these other diseases present themselves. And inflammation can be something that you see and treat before these other diseases and illnesses pop up, and ideally you'll be able to prevent even being diagnosed with these things. I have a book that I am going to share that really does a great job of explaining both inflammation and how you can make lifestyle and diet changes in order to better your life and improve inflammation and, overall overcome it. It is here. It's called Anti-Inflammatory Foods to Support Your Health and Immune System. It is by Lizzie Straight, and it is a wonderful book. It has some wonderful tools and resources, explanations, and things that you can go back and reference regularly. It's for anybody. It's not, written in some super scientific terms. I think I got the book from somewhere like Five Below or something, so that it is meant for any and everybody. And so I'm going to be sharing some of the features that they have in here. Inflammatory foods. So there are foods that are associated with contributing to chronic inflammation. So I'll put a picture of the specific inflammatory producing foods that are listed in this book. But overall, there seems to be an emphasis on trans fats, fatty meats, refined sugar, and refined carbs and alcohol. So those are the main umbrellas that I saw when I was looking over the foods that were listed here that kind of cause or contribute to chronic inflammation. And so you really want to avoid or at least minimize eating these foods in your diet. However, there are some things that you can do that will help to combat and prevent inflammation overall. Those include lifestyle changes as well as, improvements and changes in your diet. So, remedies. The ultimate remedy, of course, is biblical, because our Bible is our manual for life. The things that God tells us to do in His Word were meant for us to be able to prosper, be in good health, and to, come into all the promises He has for us. And so in Psalms 3 verse 7 through 8, it says, "Do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and depart from evil. It will be health to your flesh and strength to your bones." And so a couple things to point out here. Let me rewind and say, I've said this before, but again, the Bible is not just, some stories for us to, be encouraged by, though it can be that as well. There are literal principles, rules, laws, and governances in the Bible that tells us how to live so that we can get the best outcomes. It also warns us against how not to live so that we don't have to, come into, negative outcomes. Not to say that there won't be regular struggles of life or anything like that, but either way, the Bible gives us a literal manual of how to live. And so in these verses specifically, it says, "Do not be wise in your own eyes." So that means seek to be wise with the wisdom of God, i.e. what is written in His Word, as I just explained. It says, "Fear the Lord and depart from evil." So fearing the Lord doesn't mean to be afraid. We already talked about combating fear. So obviously it's not like the fear of being afraid in that sense, but it's more so a reverence and a respect for the Lord, a respect for His Word, a respect for the things, His ways, etc. Depart from evil. So separate yourself from things that don't align with God's ways. That includes anything that does not align itself with the ways that God tells us to live. You want to continuously be separating yourself from those things more and more. And then here is the promised outcome of doing those things. Of one, not being wise in your own eyes, but instead grasping and holding on to the wisdom of God, and also fearing the Lord, and also departing from evil. The promised outcome is that there will be health to your flesh. So that is to your body. In this case, when we're talking about inflammation, that's your cells, your joints, your tissues, etc. And then it will be strength to your bones, which is the structure of your body that holds us together, allows us to move and groove. And so those are some big promises. And so I definitely encourage you to start implementing those into your life, and you will see wonderful changes, along with some of the other things that you can implement on a surface level into your lifestyle and your diet that should help you with inflammation specifically. And so there are many anti-inflammatory foods that you can choose from. When I say many, this book alone gives 50 of the top foods that you can implement into your diet for inflammation, and those aren't even all of them, right? And so again, I highly recommend this book because it walks through so many things. And so I'm just going to show you a couple things, a couple features that are in this book that I think are just wonderful and that make it so easy. I like to give you guys the shortcuts so that you have no excuses not to implement these healthy changes into your life. And so I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but in the introduction of this book, it really goes through and it does a great job of explaining, what inflammation is, how you can treat it, how you can avoid it, etc. One of my favorite parts is on page 22, this chart. And guys, don't mind my nubs. I'm going to do my nails later. Don't judge me. But it is this at a glance food chart that has both anti-inflammatory foods, neutral foods, meaning they don't, they aren't necessarily anti-inflammatory, but they also are not inflammation causing. And then they have a list of pro-inflammatory foods, meaning the foods that will likely produce inflammation. And so I'm just going to read a couple of the suggestions they have just in this part alone, and then I will show you some of the other features of the book so that you can, start thinking about how to implement changes in your life. And so vegetables, all fresh vegetables, eaten raw or simply cooked, are considered to be anti-inflammatory. So that really gives you so many things to choose from. Like if you just walk in your produce section and start cooking up some vegetables, and it says simply cook, so you don't want to overcook your vegetables. You're probably cooking out some of the nutrients that will help you. But either way, either raw or simply cooked vegetables are wonderful. All fruits eaten raw or cooked without added sugar. So you don't want to make it an extra sugary dessert. Your apple pie, sorry, is not included in this. Your peach cobbler, sorry, is not included in this. But simple ways, like if you like to make, for example, some people like to eat breakfast apples. If you don't add any extra sugar to that, that can be, a great anti-inflammatory food. And also for some people, tasty. I don't like cooked fruit, so not for me. Grains and flours. So these are oats and whole grains such as brown and white rice. So you want to go with the brown and whole wheat versions, not the white refined wheat versions. Quinoa, whole grain flours such as those made from whole wheat, oats, or spelt, which I just kind of said. Proteins. So these are fatty fishes, legumes, which are like beans, whole soy products, and unsweetened Greek yogurt. And I like to make smoothies, so a lot of these things, not necessarily the fish, but like soy and Greek yogurt are things you can add to your smoothies every day, and you can get that in right there. Like as you can see, there are a variety of foods, so you can literally get this in at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Fats. So these are raw or oven roasted nuts and seeds, extra virgin olive oil, which I recommend cooking with anyway, avocado and avocado oil. So avocado's the actual fruit, and then avocado oil. And then again, fatty fishes are listed here. Sweets. Now look, for those who like dessert, there are some sweets for you that are actually anti-inflammatory. So if you are a dessert person, check in right here. Dark chocolate, raw honey, and pure maple syrup, used in moderation. So you don't want to, load your plate up, load your dessert up with these things per se. And these are to replace your refined sugars and sweeteners. And then of course, fruit is a great dessert or sweet as well. And lastly, they list some drinks. So of course, water. As I said earlier, dehydration is a contributing factor to inflammation. And so definitely want to be drinking your water anyway. Green or black tea, smoothies made with whole fruits and vegetables. Like I said, I am a fan of a good smoothie in the morning. It's like my morning coffee since I don't drink coffee anymore. And it's a way to get in so many nutrients, first thing in the morning, and attack things like inflammation before you even have to think about what to eat later. Okay, and I also wanted to share just this picture of a plate that they have here on page 25 of the book. Again, I really recommend this. It has a lot of great tools and tips, and I love it because it's not just a tool, like the information in a way where it's like, okay, cool, there's the book, I'm gonna put it down. It really does a good job of operationalizing it so that you can literally incorporate it into your life. And so this plate says 50% fruits and vegetables. So when you're making your plate, this is literally ideally how you should be splitting it up. Half of your plate should be fruits and vegetables. 25% should be lean protein or fatty fish. So that's half of the other half that's left. And then lastly, that last 25% should be complex carbohydrates. Again, those are your whole grains and other things, or you can take it up with your fruits and vegetables instead. Like, it's okay. But if you're a carb person, this is where you want to get in those complex carbs. And so this book again has some very cool features. When you go through, of course, it lists all of the different, not all of them, but the 50 foods that they have. And on each of these pages, it has some information to draw from it. It has the nutrition facts for each thing. It has general information about each food. It has ways that you can choose or select these foods, like the best forms to get them in, or how to choose your produce. It tells you about different ways to incorporate it in different diets. So if you're vegan, if you are doing keto, if you are vegetarian, I don't know, whatever other diets are out there, it kind of gives you some ideas for how you can incorporate it. And it gives you some ways to just easily incorporate it into your diet in general, like how you can eat more of this thing. So like I'm on the grapes page, and it gives the example of freeze grapes to enjoy as a cold treat or blend into a slushie. Cook grapes down to use as an oatmeal topping. Okay, I wouldn't do that one, but for somebody. Roast grapes and use them as a salad topping or as part of a roasted vegetable medley. And every single food that they have here does that. So again, this is about the ease of incorporating it into your life. And then it also gives you some quick facts that you can, read about the food also, about how to store it, or, it just has some different random facts there. Lastly, I'm going to talk about the lifestyle changes that you can make to combat inflammation. So as you know, being sedentary or, not getting physical movement can be a contributing factor to inflammation. And so one way you can combat inflammation with a lifestyle change is to incorporate exercise, which again, you should be doing anyway. Almost every video that I make has talked about incorporating exercise in some way, because it is one of those key factors in living a healthy life overall. And so incorporate exercise, eliminate smoking. And so smoking is a contributing factor to inflammation. And so I say eliminate it altogether. I can't think of any way where it is a healthy idea to smoke anyway. And so eliminate it altogether. Maximize sleep quality. And so we talked about sleep quality in last week's video. So if that's something that you know for a fact that you need help with, I would recommend going back and checking that out. And I will actually tag it above. And then lastly, you want to minimize stress. I know this can be a really big one, and so I'll probably talk about this in more depth in another video, but definitely working to minimize stress in your life can help combat inflammation. I know this is, I would say, this isn't what was said in the book per se, but just looking around and knowing and observing, what I've heard different people say and what I've seen in my own, experiences. Stress is a really big contributing factor to your body staying in that kind of fight or flight response and producing inflammation in your body. And so definitely combating that can be helpful. And so if you are dealing with inflammation, 1, live by Psalms 3:7-8 and watch God's promises manifest in your body. 2, grab this book. It's very good, and start implementing the necessary changes. And then 3, enjoy a healthy and wholesome life. All right. So please like and share this video with a friend, with your family, with your tribe. Please subscribe to this channel if you have not already. And as always, have a healthy and wholesome week.